This is the Level Up Podcast. I'm Taylor Petrinovich.
And I'm Kelley Gilster of 618 Studios.
And we are on a mission to help wedding filmmakers and photographers level up their businesses so you can make more and work less.
We want to help you confidently take your business from mainstream to luxury, and it all starts right here.
Hey friends, and welcome to another episode of the Level Up Podcast. We are coming in with week 4 of our Debrief Series this fall. If you tuned into the podcast last week, we talked about some, I would say, issues I had to work through during a wedding that I had recently in Napa. And this week we are turning the mic over to Kelley because she has a really incredible family that this is the 4th of their daughters that she had the opportunity to shoot their wedding. And I feel like it's just a huge testament to the level of not only product, but level of service that Kelley and Paul with 618 Studios offer their clients. And so it's going to be fun to chat through all of those things.
Thanks, Taylor. Yeah, we first started working with this family in 2014. I remember it was July of 2014, and it was actually with a very high-level planner. It was with Brooke Keegan. Brooke Keegan planned their first daughter's wedding, and Brooke was just miles and miles ahead of me, but the photographers who were steps ahead of us had formed a relationship with Brooke and actually brought us on for this one. So that's kind of how it all started. It started with the formation of the relationship that we had with the wedding photographers that were brought on. The bride asked for recommendations from the photographers, and they sent them our name, and the rest is history. We've been able to shoot now 4 of their 6 kids' weddings. They have 6 kids. They have 5 girls and 1 boy. They are just the sweetest, coolest family. And when I'm kind of doing some ideal client avatar stuff for myself, when I think of an ideal client, I think of the daughters in this family. They are just sophisticated, but warm and welcoming, and kind of a multi-generational Newport Beach family. What they wear, I love. Where they vacation, I love. It just really fits in line with it. And it's so funny because the wedding that we debriefed on last week was such a perfect example of a Taylor Petrinovich bride. And then the very same day, I was over there shooting this bride's wedding, and she was just such a perfect 618 bride. And we actually chatted about that, texting each other, being like, I feel like I had my perfect bride and you had your perfect bride today. And it's just so fun.
It is so fun. It's honestly, there's nothing more empowering than putting a lot of work into your brand, into your portfolio, into your brand voice, and all of that stuff, and having it actually pay off, and actually booking the clients and having the opportunity to serve the kind of clients that you were initially dreaming of when you did all of that brand work internally. It's the full circle moment. There's just nothing like it.
Yeah. So we shot the first daughter's wedding in 2014. And then there was kind of a gap between daughters, the age difference or the age range was a little bit of a range between the first and the second. So then it was kind of I feel so bad for these parents. Then the age range just kind of went quick. So it was then we did another one in 2021, then we did another one in 2022, and then we did the youngest daughter's wedding here in fall of 2025. So the one daughter got married in Maui, and they kind of did something a little bit different. It was a second wedding for the groom. And so they kind of did something a little bit unconventional, but she still says, she's like, why didn't I hire you guys?
Well, I mean, honestly, 4 out of 5 is pretty good. And it's, like I said at the beginning, such a testament to probably what you are providing. Introspectively, can you look at what you're doing maybe that other people aren't doing that's having these families come back to you again and again? I mean, I do know that heirloom and legacy and family are all brand words of yours and all very important, but there's something that's clicking between them and you as a brand. And can you put your finger on what it might be?
I just think that Paul and I have always really led with being people focused. And customer service has always been like such a huge thing for us. I am also like one that like will follow their bride on Instagram like after the fact or keep up with things, or we would be back in the day sending Christmas cards to like our clients. And so interweaving all of these things, we kind of just like stay maintained in our clients' lives. Now we don't get that as much because like back in the day we were physically mailing a USB to those clients, and so then I would just automatically have their addresses on hand for Christmas cards and stuff. So I think that like the wave of from that, it's still kind of coming back from past, or younger siblings that experience that level of like connectivity to us and our brand. And I think that a lot of people who are kind of sitting maybe where we were in 2014, 15, 16, 17, where we still led with that, I don't know if it's like as much of a touch point that we could have still because, we work so much with more full service planners and our clientele is a little bit different. But I'll be interested to see if that really continues with us not having like as much touch points with our clients. I don't know yet. It's kind of like a social experiment right now.
Yeah, that's really cool. I love just like seeing what other people are doing, how things affect your business, and I'd be curious to hear like in a couple of years like how that changes. But okay, so this was a local wedding to you, right? In Southern California. Where was it at?
It was at Montage Laguna Beach, which I live at this year. 3 of my 8 weddings
Okay.
this year were there at Montage Laguna Beach.
Okay. So, I mean, you did a fair amount of destination stuff too. So I feel like you're like split kind of half and half. And I know your goal is to get out of the Orange County area. So not too bad.
Not too bad. Yeah, I felt
Not too
I'm
bad.
happy with it. I'm really happy with it. It's kind of one of those things Taylor and I say that like, and to our students that when you're ready to make a change in your business, it's really probably going to take about 18 months to really start to see the changes in that just due to the nature of the business. And I really do feel like it was, let's see, it was January 2024 that we sat down, Paul and I, and said that we were really inspired by destination work and we wanted to be doing more destination work. And it's actually been now like 18 months and we're sitting here half and half. And I can see like the trajectory of it continuing. I'd love to be like 70-30, 70% destination and 30% local. So yeah, that would be great. But yeah, wedding day, it was just wedding day only. As I kind of mentioned with my Maui wedding, which was another legacy client, many times the families are repeating what they did for the older sibling or the other sibling whose wedding we shot. And so this was another one where it was just one day of coverage. It was a big wedding. We have not done a wedding this big in a really long time. And I was getting a little bit nervous once I kind of realized the guest count. We went from shooting a 35-person wedding the weekend before to a 300-person wedding the next weekend. So much different in terms of scale of wedding. But I will say when it came to scale of production, the Maui wedding, as far as like details to shoot and like guest experiential things to shoot, it felt very similar to the 35-person wedding to the 300-person wedding. So although like budget on this one, since it is a legacy client, like I did come down in price just because they've been so loyal to us over the years. And so they did get a bit of a discount. So bringing in a third, there wasn't much like wiggle room on budget there. So Paul and I were like, hey, we've done it before. We can do it again. And we know this venue really, really well. The ceremony was at a Catholic church nearby. And so we've shot there many times. So we're like, let's use this muscle memory to just go for it. And actually 2 was the right number for this one. And it was great. We arrived on site. Everything was like pretty smooth sailing. I rode with the photographers over to the ceremony space. So we got there at Montage Laguna. He shot with the guys, then quickly headed over to the church to kind of get like preset, have the church lady walk you through the rules, all that stuff. And Paul just like schmoozes them and makes them his best friend. And then I arrive and we kind of get like right into ceremony and stuff. And then we came back for cocktail hour. Once we got to the reception space, cocktail hour and reception were only like steps away from each other, which actually makes such a huge difference in just being able to capture both very easily and bouncing back and forth between shooting tables, shooting an escort display, shooting some guests at cocktail hour, then coming back and shooting another part of whatever. So it was just so wonderful. And this was one where we actually had like a good amount of time to shoot like portraits as well. We had like more of, I feel like at Montage Laguna, it's right on the cliffside. And for those who are familiar, it's a beautiful property, but I wouldn't say the clientele is a sand between the toes type of bride, if that makes sense. But this couple, they were just young, fun. They had lots of ties to the beach. He loves to surf, and she just like reads on the beach. That's like their favorite. We heard in the toast, that's like their favorite afternoon. And so for them going down onto the beach, it was kind of cool because I don't really get many montage clients that have the desire to do that or just the time in the production level of the day to be able to do that.
Yeah, that's fun. It's kind of cool when the same venue like really does kind of attract like a few different like kinds of people. And it sounds like you got one that's maybe slightly more like relaxed and like laid back, which is always for me a joy to work with. I mean, I lean more type A, slightly more robotic. So like that's myself, but it is so fun to work with the more like laid back, easygoing people. Maybe I would like call you more laid back and easygoing. I don't know.
I would say I am too. Yeah. And
Yeah.
this bride was a true Gen Z bride. So her sisters, I mean, they're all very, I would say, like classic. Like, they're just classic. Like, they're stunning. They're very much like a slick back bun, not a ton of makeup type of bride. But she, like, definitely loved the vibes as well. And her photographer, like, definitely brought the vibes too. And it was actually kind of fun because I think so often as filmmakers, we rely so much on the photographers, and it was kind of nice to be able to switch roles a little bit and be able to guide the photographer a little bit. She had been like kind of struggling a little bit with like space or like where to do the full bridal party or where to take or no, family formals were done at the church, but like, yeah, where to do the spacing. And it was cool because I've shot at Montage Laguna Beach a dozen times before. So this was her very first time. So I could kind of tell her of like, this is where typically the space is, like to do this. And I'd highly recommend doing this here. And so it was nice to be able to lead a little bit more in that day. And I hope she appreciated it. But yeah, it's cool to like return the favor.
Yeah. I feel like there's such pros and cons when you work at a venue for the very first time versus when it is like one of those where you're rinsing and repeating because you're there all the time. And one of the perks is you don't really have to scout. Like you really just kind of already know where the spots are.
Yeah, yes. And I will say too, like, I feel like so many of our montage weddings, and this is just another nod to this type of bride that's a little bit different, is that so many of them go up to the ballroom for the reception. Like, they're not going to go to the beach and get the sand in their toes. They like the comfort of the ballroom and the feel and the look of the ballroom. But this bride had their reception on the lawn, like, which to me makes so much sense being, bringing your guests in and enjoying like the ocean. It's oceanfront. It's like enjoying it all night long. So it's cool to like, when you're working with that ideal client, you start to notice that like your values are also their values. Like if I was getting married here, this is what my values would be, and these would be my priorities. And like hers were the exact same. So our ideal client is really just another version of ourselves in the most elevated way.
Yeah, 100%. It's always so fun when we get to like really nail the ideal client. And I do feel like being a few years in for both of us of like really working towards that, like again, the fruits of the labor coming full circle. It's like so nice and it's going to be so fun watching our mastermind students achieve the same thing over time as well. Going through the day, are there any points that stand out to you as far as like highlights, challenges, things you had to kind of work through?
Yeah, I would say the biggest challenge, not that we hadn't experienced this before, but it had been a long time, so it wasn't really on our radar. And Paul and I, like I'll say, like we got in a bit of an argument about it, like at the wedding and after the wedding as I was like reviewing footage. But being on the coast, sometimes you'll get a heavy like fog layer come through. And this was the night where a lot of fog like rolled into the venue, and it made it challenging because it just kind of like softened the footage a lot, both
Mm.
in like how far away you could be, like even the drone, like there was drone shots that we were droning at night. We wanted to shoot it during the day, and then we shot it also at night, and it's like we did a shot of like top down coming down onto like the space, and it's like going through like an actual cloud. Like you couldn't even be like 50 feet up without like being in a cloud. And on Paul's, I was pretty noticeable of like when it was like fogging up my lens as well. Like the fog layer was starting to like create some like condensation on the lens, but Paul wasn't as noted, he didn't notice it as much. So he was just like shooting, shooting, shooting. And it wasn't until like towards the evening, I'm like, Paul, your footage looks so soft. What is going on? And he was like, what are you talking about? Like, it's just because of the fog. And I'm like, no, 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 like wipe your lens down. And he was like, oh, and so I need to still get to that edit. You're way ahead of me on my editing queue because you've already delivered to that bride and your bride on, what was it, September 20th, and I still need to start. But they, I'm going to be using a lot more of my footage on that one than Paul's. So yeah, that was a
That dang fog.
challenge. That dang fog. I know. I was so annoyed by that. It's just like so much moisture in the air. It was crazy. Um, yeah.
I've heard of like similar challenges when you go from a really dry climate to a really humid climate. So like climate. So if someone goes to shoots in Florida for the first time or like Mexico, and something's happening in the air and the moisture in the air and going from one to the other can cause like inside the lens, like fog
Yeah.
where you can't even like wipe it off.
Yeah, it has to acclimate. So you have to like, especially when like you're in your car in the AC and then like you jump out of the car into the humidity. I've heard that like you have to like let it acclimate a little bit before you can like hop right into like shooting right away.
That's crazy. Yeah, I don't know. It is like bone dry up here, so we do not have any problems with that.
Yeah. I'm
Uh,
trying to think of any other things that were a challenge. Hmm. I mean, yeah, it was a simple day. It was like not one of those things like I'm trying to think of like so there was no first look. So like that was like a layer that can add to things. Um they didn't have like a formal exit from the church. Like we've had ones at that church where they have like you kind of have to hang around for like a formal exit and then try to like race the guests to the reception like space. Like it was just like easy chill, like all that. Um getting to the space, I'd familiarized myself with it. One thing to also consider, so because of the 300 guests, they could only accommodate, which Taylor, you and my weddings and other people will start to notice as you scale upwards in the industry. The tables are different. There's varieties in tables. There's long tables, there's rounds, there's rectangle tables. They bring in a blend of like not every table looking the same. This one, design wise, they were kind of forced to use just round tables because with 300 guests on that lawn, they couldn't do like lots of different arrangements of tables. And so it actually made it very simple, like detail wise, because instead of shooting two or three different table styles and centerpiece styles, it was all just condensed to one style. So I could really just shoot one type of a table and it was the same table rather than all of that. And then like cocktail hour was also just like pretty like simple in a way. We could shoot it really quickly. I guess I focused a lot on this one with like her being like younger and fashionable. It meant that her friends and guests were very young and fashionable. So for me, like it wasn't so much the details and decor that were my primary focus. It was like you have really cute friends that are very fashionable and I'm going to lean into that too as like being a part of it. Not that I wouldn't already, but it was like the shining star of the wedding.
Yeah, which I mean, I think it's good to hear because I think we come into every wedding like especially when you shoot a high volume, you kind of do treat every wedding the same. But when you take a
Yeah.
step back and kind of look at what is like the shining moment or like what is center stage for each wedding, like you can just lean into whatever that wedding is naturally inclined to be instead of trying to force something. We talked several times on the podcast throughout the course of this year that you can kind of get yourself in trouble. Like if you imagine a wedding being like the best one of your career and like you just like hype it up in your mind to be something and then you show up on the day, like you can be sorely disappointed because maybe the timeline escapes you and you don't have time to make it everything that it was, or weather like amazing weddings can be rained out and like plan B isn't going to be as beautiful as plan A or whatever. And so if like this was one of your first like quote unquote luxury weddings where you hyped it up to be something and then you thought it would be all about the details but really was the fashion, like you might have been looking in the wrong place. So I feel like it's really
Yes.
smart to like take a step back and just like actually look.
But yeah, yeah, and then we're kind of playing a little bit with like some Super 8 stuff to make the vibey brides happy. And I'm starting to like roll out a little bit of that, like kind of getting some feelers on how it's being received. So far it's being received really well, and actually we'll see how this ends up working out, but this little shift in artistry may help me like land a wedding for next year. I have a proposal out with a planner friend who we work with a lot, and it's at a venue that us and that planner worked at together earlier this year. And so I had sent the proposal over. I waited a while to like see if I heard anything back and reached back out. And she's like, no decision's been made yet. But I will tell you that like we're still kind of locking in photography, and the mom leans more traditional, but the bride leans more vibes. Like she loves the vibes. And so I just wrote over to the planner. I think sometimes they just need to be told that it's something that like you can do. And I was like, hey, like I'm happy to do the vibes like in a way that's tasteful and like still feels like our brand, and it's going to be something that mom will enjoy too. And we actually started bringing Super 8 into the mix as kind of an off menu item to introduce it to more of our vibey clients. And so she's like, oh, that's great. Do you have something I can show her? And so I had put together like a little blend from the wedding that I'm talking about with you guys right now of the Super 8 stuff. And I just like uploaded it to Vimeo really quick, put it together in like 20 minutes, kind of edited something, grabbed some music, and I'm like, yes, here you go. And she's like, okay, perfect. I'll definitely share this with her. And I think, I don't know, it's just something about like, you know, it's nice when you have that introspective like ideas, but then it's also one thing to like act on it. So for me, I'm like, this is a moment that I need to go act on this. I don't have this put together yet, but let me go put this together, because putting this together and like putting everything away for the next 20, 30 minutes to do this and show it to the planner could be the difference of me booking this job or not booking this job.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of parallels coming from last week. It's like taking initiative, being a problem solver, and actually like bringing your ideas to the table and getting it done. Like I think that so many people are like afraid to do it. They're just like not thinking outside the box or whatever, but I think that that creativity of like seeing the opportunity and like having the materials at your fingertips, going the extra mile of doing that, like could land you many, many thousands of dollars, and I'm here for it. I hope it works out.
I hope it works out too. I'll be really excited to see like if this like blend in artistry is like going to work well. But
Yeah.
I'm excited. Yeah. And it's also something too, like even so I got a chance to work with Danny Toscano. She's so lovely. I think you've worked with Danny as well.
I've worked with Danny a handful of times. One of the times was I shot a wedding with Eric McVeigh and she was his second.
Oh, that makes sense.
Um, mhm.
Yeah. They'd be like great paired together for sure. I could see
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Um yeah, so I did some Super 8 stuff, and I actually just did some Super 8 stuff too, because I mean, this is all for funsies, guys. We're just like we're just testing concepts right now. And so I was like, I'm going to shoot some stuff of Danny because like Super 8 stuff feels like very in alignment with her brand, like understanding that. And so I told her, I'm like, hey, I shot some Super 8 stuff. And if it like turns out, I'll definitely send it to you. And she's like, that's so nice. And then I actually did it. Like it got processed and scanned through the lab. I got it back. Great little clip. I made Danny her own little like 15-second something of like, her shooting the couple and then the couple and then the bride and like back to her shooting the couple, and she posted it on her Instagram and she's like, can you text this to me, like I would love to use this. And then we like texted for a little bit about like the wedding and stuff. And so it's just serving, even outside of the clientele and stuff.
That's so cute. I like that you saw this matches your vibey little brand and like, let's do it. I love that. That's so fun. So
Yeah,
fun.
yeah.
How
I just
many
want to be thought of. I just want to be thought of as being like multi-dimensional, I think. Like, because I grew up in the, like, my business grew up in the age of Style Me Pretty. The Style Me Pretty aesthetic was like so perfect, like perfection, perfection, pretty light, that's it. All like Contact 645 with Fuji 400H film. Like, it had to be like pristine and perfect, which there is like an art form to that. But now I think, like, as an industry, and we've talked about this on the podcast beforehand, there's kind of like a rebellion a little bit of that in Gen Z. And I think we'll see like a little bit of like a balance too. But I had a really interesting conversation with actually the planner that I did the wedding with, Danny. And this was earlier on in the year. And she was kind of saying like, what do I do when I get a bride who like wants something like this? And I'm like, we can absolutely do that. And she's like, oh, you can? Like, I would love to just like keep you in mind. Sometimes I just like kind of like you're in a box of like a certain type of clientele, which is like a good thing and a bad thing. I don't know.
Yeah. So in our league meeting today, league members who are listening to this will remember we had this at the time of recording, not like in real time when it's being published, but we had Kate Turner of Kate and Co speak, and she said something that really stuck with me. And she said, there are so few brands out there, and Abby Jou is one of them, where she's like so hyper specific in her brand and her ideal client. Like, she's very like high fashion, like that kind of bride. But most of us are kind of chameleons, and we can more or less blend in with like nearly any client. And I do think that there is so much to be said for being able to kind of live in both worlds, kind of had one foot planted on both side. Like, to be known for something and to so seamlessly fit in with like one very specific aesthetic and bride and stuff, but also showcasing the ability to be flexible and to be whatever it is that you're needed to be on the other hand too, I think will allow you to not alienate most of the market and to like capitalize on experiences. And I mean, honestly, it's just kind of fun to like do different things as well. But I feel like there's a happy medium where you can be both.
Yeah. So that's something I'm kind of leaning into a little bit this year, a little bit under the cover this year. I feel like I'm not like totally outspoken about like the new direction, but with like the rebrand that we did a few months back and stuff, and into 2026, I do kind of want to lean into, yes, we have a very strong brand identity, and I don't want to water that down anyway. So I'm just trying to find a clear way to showcase how I can be a chameleon while still really being strong in my brand identity. So it's fun when we get to just work through all of this with you guys. We're still growing and evolving in our own businesses. And it's fun to be able to mentor others who are in earlier stages of their business or needing more clarity. But we're also in just a really interesting time in the industry where we're introducing a whole new um, like era of clients. Like, so we're
It's like
all
a new
kind of
wave.
relearning. Yeah, it's a new wave and we're all kind of relearning together. And so I want to be sure that I'm on the offense of that and not kind of getting stuck in like my waves.
Yeah, 100%. All right, guys, this is great. Kelley has a bunch of legacy clients, which is so fun. Next week for our fifth debrief episode, if you're noticing, they're kind of each taking on like little themes within the episodes. Next week we're actually gonna be really raw and real and bring it into like what happens when crazy family things, health things, big, sad bad events are happening in your personal life and how to balance showing up for your clients and like basically making it to where they are none the wiser because it's all about hospitality and client experience. So that's what we're going to talk about next week. And we have a few more of these debrief episodes coming at you over the next couple of weeks. Send us a DM. Are we liking it? Thumbs up, thumbs down? Like, do you want us to like get back to talking about Instagram and branding and all that stuff? Or are you guys enjoying kind of hearing us walk through our real events? One of the cornerstones that we have noticed about Level Up and that of what people appreciate about us is that we are still actively working within the industry. Some of our mastermind students have told us, like, I chose you to be my educator because you are still shooting. And so we wanted to kind of show you guys what we are actively doing within the industry and like walk through things that we are battling on our own instead of just like yapping education at you. So hopefully it's landing where we want it to land for you guys. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week. Thank you for joining us in today's conversation. Please help us reach more filmmakers and photographers like you by taking a screenshot and sharing it to social media. And don't forget to tag us at The Level Up Co.
And join us again next week, same time, same place, as we continue to level up the industry together.